Well, it's been 5 years since Sonic Forces, and my opinions on it haven't really changed at all. Needless to say, after playing it, I was very skeptical about Sonic Team's next Sonic game. Well, the first teaser for the follow-up to Sonic Forces was first shown off at the 2021 Sonic Central for the series' 30th anniversary. It didn't actually show us anything, but hey, I guess it was neat to know that the next game was coming soon. It didn't give us a title reveal yet, but Sega's press kit had the game listed as Sonic Rangers. The game was apparently planned for a 2021 release, but Sega chose to delay the game by another year to handle quality control. Then a few months later, both the first piece of gameplay and the title were revealed at the Game Awards. It was Sonic Frontiers, and from the first glimpse of gameplay, it kinda just looked like Breath of the Wild, but you're Sonic. But I actually thought an open world approach for the series was kind of long overdue. Like, just think about all the fun possibilities that could happen in an open world Sonic title. I was still being cautious about the game, because after how cheaply made Forces was, a small part of me still felt that Sonic Team could easily screw this up. We get more publicity for Frontiers in June 2022, all of which was being handled by IGN. Interesting choice. I'll be real, the initial footage that we got from IGN was pretty awful. That first video in particular was a horrible display of how the game was gonna play. Didn't exactly help that Sonic fans were up in arms to blame IGN for the lackluster footage, when they weren't even the ones who recorded it. But that's what Sonic fans do, I guess. I initially tried staying up to date with the IGN coverage, but I sorta just fell off paying attention to Frontiers, mainly since a lot of my own personal stuff was going on at the time. Plus, Sonic Origins also came out in June, and it did not have a very good launch. Thankfully, since my initial review, a few of the bugs have been patched, but Origins still has a lot it could really fix. It was pretty nerve-wracking seeing Origins get handled so poorly. Meanwhile, the next big 3D Sonic game was getting mediocre coverage at the same time. June was not the best time to be a Sonic fan. Well, Origins came and went, and my interest in Sonic Frontiers remained about the same. I just wasn't really motivated to follow it that close. Otani was gonna be the sound director again. I really wasn't a fan of his direction in Forces, but the music we were hearing from Frontiers so far did sound like it was gonna be an improvement. Plus, and probably the biggest positive news, Ken Pontac and Warren Graff, who had been the main English writers for Sonic since freaking Colors, were not returning for Frontiers. Instead, Sega, being totally blunt here, finally hired veteran Sonic comic writer Ian Flynn. Ian had been the head writer for the Sonic Archie comics from 2006 all the way up to that series end in 2017, to which he continued writing once the IDW switch occurred. He was also given the opportunity to write a few episodes of Sonic Boom, which I didn't really care about, but it's not relevant to this topic. He isn't the most amazing writer ever, but from what I have seen from the man, he's very clearly someone who cares about the series and has a great understanding of the franchise and the characters. So when I say it was about freaking time Sega hired this man, I seriously mean that. Really, anyone would have been better than the previous two clowns. Well, despite the street date getting broken again, which let's be real, I think we all saw that coming, Sonic Frontiers would finally get released on November 8th. I got the game on Series X, so that's gonna be the version I'll be looking at. I'll start things off with the story. If you guys maybe want to skip this part to avoid spoilers, or if you're just someone who doesn't like when I talk about the story and voice acting in these games, then go click the timestamp in the description. The plot of Frontiers starts off with Eggman activating this ancient artifact he finds on an isolated island. Eggman thinks he'll learn the secrets of the artifact upon activating it, but it ends up warping him into a different universe. Meanwhile on the Tornado, Sonic, Tails, and Amy? Okay, I'm glad to see her have some involvement with this story. All three of them are flying to a new set of islands called the Starfall Islands in order to investigate what happened with the Chaos Emeralds. Things go south pretty instantly since all three of them get sucked into a wormhole, separating Sonic from the other two. After a detour into Green Hill Zone, Sonic ends up waking up on one of the Starfall Islands, and a random female voice in the sky starts talking to him. It even calls him the key to all of this, because he's a funnier character than we've ever had before. The voice also lets Sonic know that he must track down the 7 Chaos Emeralds on the island, and defeat these giant creatures known as Titans, along with saving all his friends. That's the basic gist. Sonic has to travel to 5 different islands where he rescues Tails, Amy, and even Knuckles. Most of the cutscenes happen when you reach certain parts of the islands while playing, but the game will also cut back and forth between Sonic and Company and Dr. Eggman in the other dimension, known as Cyberspace, and he's currently trying to find a way out of there. I don't blame him, cyberspace sucks. It's on Eggman's side where we're introduced to a brand new character, Sage, who he created to help keep an eye on Sonic in the real world, and she's also trying to help Eggman find a way to escape cyberspace. Sage basically warns Sonic to leave since the Titans on each island are very powerful, with each of them being powered by a single Chaos Emerald. So Sonic has to collect all the emeralds and defeat the Titans as Super Sonic. Throughout the game, we get a lot of references to previous entries like Adventure 1, 2, Unleashed, and even Heroes and Shadow. We also get some new lore while we're at it. It turns out a long time ago, an alien race known as the Ancients, who bear a striking resemblance to Chaos, were facing their impending doom against a giant entity in space known as the End. So they constructed these Chaos Emerald shrine-like devices, that way they could harness the energy from the emeralds to escape their home planet and get away from the End. Wait, does that mean the Chaos Emeralds came from space now? Interesting retcon. These same devices are on the Starfall Islands, which is where most of the Chaos Emeralds are, meaning Sonic has to keep unlocking them over and over again. Whenever Sonic defeats a Titan, he gets a vision of an Ancient calling out towards him, and it's not really until Sonic arrives on the 4th island where we get a more in-depth look at what happened to the Ancients. Sonic restores most of Amy, Tails, and Knuckles, but after absorbing too much cyber energy, his condition starts to worsen. So in the spirit of Sonic Heroes, Amy, Tails, and Knuckles band together to help Sonic get his energy back. It's also at this point where we learn that the female voice that's been talking to Sonic throughout the game is actually the End, which was a twist that I didn't really think about too much. But this is also where Sage decides to team up with Sonic and wants to defeat the End, and she even has to beg Eggman to join forces with Sonic again.
Sonic, I hereby induct you into the Eggman Empire in order you to save us all. Understand? This is not an alliance.
If that's how you want to spin it, Dr. Ego Man.
Thank you for not saying Baldy McNoseair again. Sonic gets all the emeralds and defeats the 5th Titan, and him and Sage put a stop to the End once and for all, with Sage even sacrificing herself, which was actually pretty sad. Tails, Amy, and Knuckles are fully restored, and all of them head out. Meanwhile, Eggman mourns the loss of Sage. And that's basically this game's story summed up. And for Ian Flynn's first outing in a Sonic game, holy shit, this was such an upgrade compared to what we've been getting for the past 12 years. It felt like a regular Sonic story again. The characterization is greatly improved, and the dialogue, for the most part, was way better. One thing I didn't mention in the summary are these little rock creatures called Cocos. We actually see them in the chest of the Ancients in flashbacks, so the Cocos pretty much carry the spirits of the Ancients inside them. Throughout the story, Sonic performs a few tasks for the Cocos, and we get to see even more flashbacks with the Ancients. After that, we see the Cocos get reverted back to being rocks, since Sonic finally helped them fulfill their purpose in life. Good lord, passing on to another life in a Sonic game? Never thought I'd see an idea like that tackled again. And cue the idiots on Twitter who were gonna be like, but Sonic's only 15, why is he learning and/or talking about death at the age of 15? I never did that stuff when I was 15, that's weird. That's cause Sonic's not a fucking loser like you guys. He's Sonic the fucking Hedgehog, why are you comparing him to a regular 15-year-old? That's unbelievably stupid. No wonder they decanonized the character's ages. Moving on, there's a lot of neat lore building in this game that I was actually missing for a good while. I've heard a few fans say that this plot is basically a love letter to the adventure games, and while I personally don't think this matches the charm or even the pacing of those games, it's still pretty good for what it is. The new character, Sage, was a very interesting inclusion. I really like the cutscenes in Cyberspace where she and Eggman are talking. This is where she learns even more about Sonic and Eggman's rivalry and even challenges it for a bit. One complaint that I've heard about this game's dialogue is that it's very reference heavy, mostly with how it comes to Sonic and the other characters are written, especially during gameplay where Sonic will just stop in his tracks and make a reference to something, and it feels almost Family Guy-esque where it's like, remember the time this happened? It can get pretty comical at points, but when it comes to Sage, I was never bothered when she referenced stuff. A lot of her dialogue is very observational, mainly since Eggman programmed her to be that way, meaning she tries knowing everything about the characters. This leads to her even proposing the idea of Eggman and Sonic joining up, since those two proved to be an unstoppable team in SA2 when they stopped the Space Colony arc, and even in Heroes when they had to defeat Metal Sonic. You see, this is how you write fan service. She's not bringing up these old games because, hey, do you remember SA2 and Heroes? She's mentioning it because she's legitimately questioning why Eggman doesn't team up with Sonic more, since it's clearly worked so well in the past. Then when we get to the point at the end of the story when Sonic has to stop the end, Sage's point is proven even further because the Doctor finally caves in and temporarily teams up with Sonic. It's so good. The relationship between Sage and Eggman is one of my favorite parts of the whole story, mainly because Eggman actually grows an attachment to Sage and almost treats her as if she's his actual daughter. While you're playing through the game, you can purchase these things called Egg Memos, which are audio logs recorded by Eggman that have a bit more world-building lore to it. One of the logs even has Eggman starting to question the way he perceives Sage, often realizing he's talking about her as if she's not a robot. I think it's pretty fascinating and it's kinda cute.
Sage has been crucial to my survival here in cyberspace. Early warnings of hostile entities, guiding me past firewalls, keeping me updated on progress in the real world. She's the best. It's a program. An adorable program, a very personable program. I wonder if she has a preference.
Sage is my favorite part of this game hands down. Just like Infinite, she has a terrific design, but unlike Infinite, every cutscene with her wasn't boring. She's probably the first new Sonic character I've actually liked since, hell, maybe Silver in Sonic 06, which was 16 years ago. Jesus Christ. Also, according to Egg Memo number 11, Eggman did a DNA analysis of the Ancients, and concluded that the Master Emerald probably morphed all of them into Chao. Huh. So I guess their designs being very similar to Chaos's was absolutely intentional. Fascinating.
I don't believe this. I had Sage run a diagnostic on the recorded genetic data of the Ancients, and then against archives I have with me. They're relatives of Chaos, the god of destruction. After countless years, their DNA corroded to the point they were completely transformed into a new species. Some kind of radiation affected them for eons, making them unrecognizable. Except to a genius like me.
There's even a memo where he makes fun of how lame the Baldy McNoseair comment was. Speaking of that, do any of you remember that interview with Takashi Iizuka where he flat out stated the story for this game was a huge improvement over the recent titles? He basically indirectly mocked Pontak and Graf's writing. God, that's funny. Focusing on the rest of the characters, they present a different story on each island you're on. Amy learns about appreciating the time you have with the ones you love, and she promises to keep doing that once Sonic restores her from cyberspace. I'm happy to see Amy get ridden with an actual personality this time around. I've only been missing that since Adventure 1. And with Knuckles, he says that he relates to the struggle that the ancient alien race went through, since the Echidna tribe from 1,000 years ago also faced a similar demise at the hand of a greater power. The adventure continuity is greatly respected, and it works nicely for Knuckles' character arc as well. There was even that animated short, Sonic Frontiers Prologue Divergence, which explains how Knuckles ended up on the island. It's a pretty good short, and I recommend you guys watch it if you enjoyed Frontiers' story. I also just like how Sega has continued making these kinds of shorts for the game since Mania. When it comes to Tails, his cutscenes are mostly interesting. Ian Flynn actually tried to address his wildly inconsistent characterization, which I feel a bit mixed on. He brings up old stuff like what happened with Infinite even, worrying if he was ever a burden to Sonic or if he's ever actually helped him, to which Sonic has to remind him of the times that Tails has actually been helpful. I can definitely see where the inclusion of this was coming from. Flynn was trying to course correct Tails' personality back to being his older self because, well, you can't really just write off 12 years of bad writing as, let's just pretend it didn't happen, cause that would be a bit weird and goofy, and also a bit inconsistent in itself.
It was all a dream, a horrible, horrible dream.
My main issue with this was the dialogue. It's a bit awkward and it brings the story to a bit of a halt.
Whenever there's a crisis, I'm either running away or standing on the sidelines. You're always rescuing me when all I do is follow you around.
Hey, who was it who stopped Eggman from blowing up Station Square, huh? And who broke me out of prison, or saved me from the Deadly Six's trap?
Then I'm wildly inconsistent.
This is one of the only parts of the game where I feel like the writing gets a bit jank. I think it would have been made worse if Tails just randomly brought this up to Sonic, like just out of fucking nowhere, unprompted. But the reason Tails mentions it to Sonic is because he bumped into Sage in the last cutscene, and since Sage knows everything about the characters, why wouldn't she bring up that Tails wasn't acting like himself in the previous games? So I personally think this made a lot of sense, but the dialogue for it definitely could have been written better. But at the very least, it's just one cutscene and it's only like a minute. I still appreciate that Ian Flynn was trying to explore the characters more, and gave us something that was way better than what Forces and especially Lost World were trying to do. Like, I'm happy to finally happily talk about the story to a Sonic game again, and I don't hate it. I never thought that would happen again, so thank you, Ian Flynn. Even the ending to the game got to me for a bit. Again, Sage was my favorite part of the whole story, so seeing her sacrifice actually made me pretty sad, especially the last shot showing Eggman mourning the loss of her. It's the first time a Sonic character had this kind of effect on me since Chip from Sonic Unleashed. It's great seeing another Sonic game be able to pull that off. There's even a song in the end credits that shares heavily similar vibes to Dear My Friend, but I'll be sure to mention that later when I discuss the game's soundtrack. While on the topic of the constant references and especially this game's ending, it's kinda wild that Tango from the IDW comics got mentioned. Like, I imagine this script had to have gotten approved by Takashi Iizuka. So does that mean we're gonna potentially see Tango in a future game? That would be pretty sick. Let's hope she's playable, but probably the most infamous line comes from Amy during the ending.
I wonder if Cream and Sticks are free. Make a road trip out of it.
Wait, Sticks? Sticks? From Sonic Boom? What? I'm not even a fan of Sonic Boom and I could care less about this character, but the simple fact that Amy just casually mentions her, and also the fact that Takashi Iizuka probably had to have approved of Amy saying this, does that mean there's a main series version of Sticks that we haven't met yet? How are they gonna explain that in the next game? What the hell? At the very least, I like that they mentioned Cream. I miss her a lot. Oh, by the way, this is the last thing you see in the post-credits scene.
Father?
That's my girl.
And that's the first time a post-credit scene in a Sonic game made me pop off. Hell yeah, Sage lives. All in all, I really like this game's story. It is a bit uneven in some cases, but it's the first time Ian wrote for an actual Sonic game, and I think he did the best he could. It's the first time I played a new Sonic game and didn't want to skip over the cutscenes. So thank you again, Mr. Flynn. Though one odd thing is that you can't rewatch the cutscenes anywhere in this game. It's not even an option in the title screen either, which is really weird because most of the recent games gave you that ability. Strange. A bit of a side tangent, I kinda miss when Marziplanet was actually making the cutscenes for the games again. The cutscenes themselves looked pretty good, none of them came off as cheap looking like they did back in Sonic Forces, but in the official trailers for Frontiers, the CG looks amazing, and it makes me kinda sad that none of these cutscenes are actually in the game. I'm gonna guess that they were probably busy working on the Sonic movies, but I still wish Marziplanet would do more cutscenes in the games again, kinda like the stuff they did in Unleashed, or even Colors in Black Knight. But now we've come to the topic everyone watching hates hearing me talk about, the voice acting. Again, please refer to the timestamps in the description if you don't want to hear me discuss this topic. So don't say I didn't give you an option to skip this. For those unfamiliar with my channel, I've been pretty harsh on the voice acting in Sonic games in the past, but I will admit that in recent times, my opinions on the voice acting has actually been a bit more positive, for the most part. Before I say my piece, I just want to say that I think that all of these actors are very talented individuals, and this isn't some personal attack towards anyone. I also want to prefix that I think everyone's acting in the game is good, I just have a gripe with the voices, if that makes sense to anyone. So please don't try to white knight these people because I highly doubt they give a shit about what some loser in his mid-20s thinks about their voices for a bunch of fictional video game characters in a game made for kids. So try to not take everything I say so seriously. I'm also not an influencer for Sega in any way. I can assure you that they do not give a fuck about my videos. But even if I was an influencer, my opinions on this topic still mean nothing and it's not going to change the course of the voice cast in any way. So please keep all of that in mind as I progress forward. I guess starting from best to worst, Sage was voiced by Ryan Bartley and she did a spectacular job. Her performance is one of the reasons why I like Sage so much. So good job, kid. I didn't hate you. And I do not look forward to 5 to 10 years from now when Sega decides to just recast you for no reason season, and I'll be pissed about it. For the returning actors, Colleen did a fine job as Tails, and Mike Pollock was pretty good as Eggman. I'd even go as far to say that I think him reading those egg memos from earlier are some of the best voice acting he's ever done as Eggman ever. And, I think those were the only two returning actors I liked. Oh, I liked Kyle Hebert as Big. This character's not part of the main story. It's for a minigame that I'll discuss later, but I still thought Kyle's Big voice was good.
I don't know. I was looking for fishing spots and wound up here. So now I'm fishing.
Alright, moving on to the people I didn't like. Cindy Robinson did a solid job voicing the female voice for the end, but her Amy voice sometimes comes off sounding like an old lady, or Snapcube's Timmy Turner impression. Obviously, that's not Cindy's fault at all for reminding me of that. It's just my dumbass brain thinks they both sound alike and I can't separate the two.
They were reunited, right before the end.
Sonic, you still have love to share with this world too.
Wasn't this region locked off before? I think you can interact with it now.
What about my copy of Incredible Hulk on PS2? You gonna be getting that to me anytime soon? I wish that Joe's inside was on the outside.
David B. Mitchell, who I think took over the voice of Knuckles from Travis Willingham in Team Sonic Racing, did a decent enough job with the role. I'm just personally not the biggest fan of this new Knuckles voice. I'm also not really into how both him and Sonic sound almost identical.
I'll admit, I do envy your lifestyle. Freedom to go where you want, when you want.
So do it. Get out there and live a little.
And speaking of Sonic, what the fuck happened to Roger's voice? I know I haven't really been a huge fan of his regular Sonic voice to begin with, but why does it sound so deep in Frontiers? It doesn't fit the character at all, and it sounds like Wes from Time Force.
Looks like I'm the only one who made it out of that. Whatever it was.
And if he gets him, he will use the Zord and destroy anything he wants!
Yeah, okay, sure. How about a little context? Hello?
We are Power Rangers, Eric. And friends or not, we're the only hope this city has right now.
And before any of you try to justify it like, well, they said he's doing a deep voice in this game because the tone was more serious. Wasn't Forces also trying to take itself seriously? Sure, Pontac and Graf wrote the English script, but the tone was still kinda trying to be serious, and Roger's voice sounded the exact same. You know what I think happened? I think the voice director got Ian Flynn's script, realized that it had actual effort put into it, and also probably realized that Roger is incapable of pulling off a serious performance with the current voice of Sonic he's been doing. So I guess he probably told him to maybe tone it back a bit, which I personally don't think had the best results. But at the same time, what other options did they have? You either recast the dude or just have Roger do that stupid forced surfer voice again. But I also don't think this deeper voice for a better performance was at all necessary either. Both Ryan Drummond and Jason Griffith, yes, Cooper's Perspective fans and haters, I'm praising Jason, both of them did not have to resort to deepening their Sonic voices for the sake of delivering lines with a more serious tone.
I'm worried about Tails and Amy. I hate to ask, but could you help them? This is our last chance. I got it. Before the cannon fires, I'll slam dunk it in there.
Merlina, every world has its end. I know that's kind of sad, but that's why we gotta live life to the fullest in the time we have.
Like, sure, the acting may not be perfect, but holy shit, they were both clearly more capable of manipulating their Sonic voices without having to severely change them. Look, I hate to say it, but I just think Roger was miscast as Sonic. I genuinely don't believe he's capable of doing a voice for the character that would fit. And the thing too is that I don't feel this strong about any other character Roger's voiced. Like, he sounds fine as Batman, and I like the characters he voiced on regular show, and he's been good in other video games, especially Assassin's Creed. But as Sonic, it's just not working. He's the longest running English voice for the character, and it's honestly starting to feel that way. His voice just sounds tired and out of it at points. It's almost like he doesn't enjoy doing the character anymore. And this is gonna sound rude as hell, but when Roger pulled that weird publicity stunt where he said he was quitting the character, I personally wish he actually quit. Like, if you're not gonna bring back the other two actors, then get someone else. We need a new portrayal of the character because Roger's take on it is just not working. I don't really subscribe to the idea of getting used to a voice actor's completely different portrayal of a character I like, especially when I think we could have a much better sounding performance similar to previous portrayals. It's a whole ass topic, and I don't mean to ramble about it again, but Roger's take on Sonic after the past 12 years just isn't doing it for me. With that said, if you like Roger's voice, that's totally fine. Don't treat my words like there's some kind of personal attack, and don't go type some massive paragraph about how much you prefer his voice over previous actors, or whatever other arguments my opinions will probably cause people to have. Again. Also, if you're someone who gets annoyed by me talking about this topic again, and the most you can say is just, I don't care about the voice acting that much, I don't give a crap that you don't give a crap. Please try to understand that this type of comment adds nothing to the discussion, because we are clearly not in the same mindset about this topic, and that's perfectly okay. I actually really wish I didn't care like you guys, but I do, so here we are. Wrapping this part up, I still really enjoyed this game's story in spite of my personal feelings about the voice cast. People like me can just switch the voice acting to Japanese, so who gives a shit? With all that out the way, let's finally get to the gameplay. Starting off, this game brought back difficulty settings similar to Forces. It includes easy, normal, and hard modes. Good for newer players, I guess, but to translate these for skilled players, baby mode, pussy mode, and normal. Pretty much pick hard mode. Alright, since this is the first open world Sonic title, you'd assume they'd whip up some new sort of gameplay style for it. They did not. Instead, they took the gameplay from Sonic Forces and just simply tweaked it a bit. So Sonic has all his usual moves from that game, along with more classic moves like the Light Dash, which activates by pressing the analog stick, and even the Drop Dash, which I'll discuss a little later. Oh yeah, the homing attack is back to functioning how it did in Unleashed, where you jump and then press X. That was quite an interesting decision, but I don't mind it too much. The biggest new inclusion for Sonic in this game is the Psy move, which you can activate by holding the Y button. This'll make Sonic glow and you can create little circles with it, which can harm enemies and even activate certain missions. This move is called the Psy loop, and it's the first combat move you unlock in the game, and it kinda reminds me of that one power-up from Pac-Man World 3, so you ain't slick, Sonic Team. You can also run in circles over and over again to infinitely spawn rings, which is interesting. I feel like this feature maybe should have only been in easy and normal mode. Collecting a shit ton of rings doesn't really matter anymore because we still don't have a life function, but yeah, that's a thing you can do. You can spawn rings anywhere. Sonic also has the boost, but for whatever reason, it's been heavily neutered. It doesn't have the same satisfying feeling of rushing through everything like the previous games. The boost ore is gone, for the most part, and probably the worst change ever, it doesn't protect you from enemies. This is where the issue with the boost becomes extremely noticeable. Why can't the boost harm anything anymore? Like it can't even break through inanimate objects. I know the developers probably didn't want people to just use the boost for everything, but the enemies in the open world still have health bars. They could have just made the boost take away a small percentage of their health and not instantly kill them. Why did they decide to ruin it? There is an electric boost you can unlock by gaining enough rings, but despite looking more flashy, and I guess it looks like you're moving a bit faster, it doesn't really do much. I'm gonna guess they put this in the game to appease the movie Sonic fans. Regardless, the boost is still good for helping Sonic run faster in the open zones, but apart from that, it's basically just a glorified run button now. Again, it's more than likely that they limited the effects of the boost to justify encouraging players to use the game's new combat system. And yes, you heard that right. There's a combat system. You encounter these enemies in the open worlds called the Guardians, and instead of just homing in on them like normal, Sonic Team made up a new combat system for these fights, and it could just mostly consist of you mashing the X button over and over again, but you can earn skill points to help unlock new moves in the pause menu. These additional button presses help add some variety to this system, and yeah, some of Sonic's battle animations are pretty neat to watch, but overall I still found the combat system to be pretty basic. You can also parry an enemy's attacks while you're fighting them, which is very helpful, but the move is so overpowered. There's no timing to it at all. You can just hold the parry button down as long as you want multiple times with no penalty. Obviously, this game's for kids, and Sonic Team didn't want to overcomplicate things with a more unique combat system, but I hate to say this, even the Werehog had more variety. Maybe not as fast paced, but at least he still had combos. Whatever, the combat system is very simple, but it functions functions just fine. Also, it plays nothing like Devil May Cry. I've literally heard a few people try to compare it to that, and it's just, what? How? The one legitimate complaint that I do have for the combat system is how you can't save your progress or bring up the map screen while Sonic is currently in a fight. I can kinda sorta see why saving would be disabled, but why the fucking map? A lot of these enemies can respawn when you reload the maps. So what if I'm just trying to do a few missions on the island? I'm not allowed to look at the map because I simply ran past an enemy? That's so annoying. You can unlock fast travel abilities on the map, so I guess they figured that they should disable the map while you're in a battle so you can't just run away from it. But why not just disable the fast travel option when you're in a battle, not the whole fucking map? Jesus! Another thing Sonic Frontiers brought back is a leveling up system, kinda similar to what Sonic Unleashed did, which wasn't a bad idea for this type of game. Throughout the game, Sonic can increase his speed, combat, rings, and defense to level 99. How exactly are you supposed to level up Sonic's stats? Well, whenever you complete the missions or just explore the overworlds, Sonic can come across these blue and red seeds. You take these seeds to a Hermit Coco on the island, and he'll level up both your combat and defense depending on how many seeds you bring him. He levels everything up all at once too, which is a great time saver. But when it comes to leveling up your speed and rings, however, you have to go to a different Coco, the Elder Coco. You see, on each island, you can find a bunch of tiny Cocos scattered about, and they'll even show up when you stand around for a bit. And look at that, Sonic has an actual idle animation this time around. So once you collect enough Cocos, you can take them all back to the Elder Coco, and he'll ask if you want to level up your speed or rings in return. Not a bad system in concept, but in execution, this is fucking awful because the Elder Coco only lets you level up your stats one at a time. So if you're someone who grinds in these games a lot, or like me, you found a way to acquire enough items to max out Sonic's stats, having to talk to the Elder Coco over and over again just to level up 2 stats is the most tedious thing ever. And since this is the only way to level up your speed and rings, a large portion of your gameplay is gonna end up being like this. It's so weird because the Hermit Coco can level up everything at once, so why can't the Elder Coco also do that? It's such a tiring feeling once you finally max out Sonic's speed, only to realize, oh fuck, I didn't level up his rings yet. Leveling up the rings doesn't really do anything worthwhile, but at the very least, increasing Sonic's speed does make him run faster, or at least it should make it feel like he's running faster. Yeah, this is the part of the game that kinda disappointed me the most. Like I said, the gameplay is just the same one from Forces, but with a few tweaks. Though, that also means it carried over a few of the same problems from Forces. The main one being that Sonic has no weight or momentum to him. As a result, this can make the controls feel a bit jank. It's not to the point where it's unplayable, but it does make you kinda wonder just where the heck did Sonic Team go wrong with this? I understand they couldn't just whip up a new gameplay engine for Frontiers, but if you're gonna use the same boost gameplay while modifying it, then why not bring back the basic ground physics that were present in both Unleashed and Generations? Sure, the boost games weren't playing like a classic Sonic game, but Sonic still had that one thing where if you were running super fast and let go of the analog stick, he'd continue running for a short bit before stopping. You know, momentum? How come that's nowhere to be seen in Frontiers? Why can Sonic just stop on a dime now? Why does Sonic feel like he's magnified to the ground to a point where he can now shoot down a slope to his death? Why can't he run on the surface of water anymore? That was a pretty cool thing he could do in the previous games. So why has the boost gameplay basically been deteriorating since the freaking switch from Lost World? I heard a theory that after Sonic Generations, Sonic Team just converted that existing gameplay style into Sonic Lost World, but then after Lost World flopped, they tried converting it back to the Generations gameplay style, and we ended up getting the sloppy mess that was Sonic Forces. Now, I'm not sure if that was ever confirmed or not, so maybe take it with a grain of salt, but seeing how uneven the gameplay still feels in Frontiers, I can't help but believe that theory even more. I know I'm one of the only fans who really gives a shit about momentum and physics in Sonic games, so a lot of you are probably rolling your eyes right now, but I just think this missing element in Sonic's movement just sacrifices a lot of potentially fun gameplay opportunities. Look, I'm not expecting rolling physics like what Mario Odyssey was able to pull off, but if this game played closer to how polished and perfect Unleashed and/or Generations were, I think it would have been more fun. Hell, someone's already doing a mod on PC to fix Sonic's momentum, and from what I've seen so far, it looks so much more like how I wish the actual game played. Even then, there are some elements in this game that just don't work without momentum. Like they put the fucking drop dash in this game, though unlike Mania, you have to press the jump button 3 times instead of 2. However, I rarely use the drop dash in this game because I think Sonic Team completely misunderstood the appeal of the drop dash. The reason it was so satisfying to use in Mania and even Origins was because those games played exactly like the classics, but they just shoved it into Frontiers thinking, yeah, just shoot Sonic forward with no actual physics to it at all. Alright, let's move on. No, it's not supposed to be like that. I guess at the very least, it does function a lot better than the Forces drop dash. Like that shit would have been awful to see come back. One last gripe with the momentum shit, but the boost being so heavily neutered and ruined adds a lot more to this issue. In the older games, you press the boost button down and Sonic would, well, boost. But in Frontiers, they moved the boost to the right analog trigger, which I don't mind, but the main issue is that you can't just hold the trigger and boost like before. Instead, you hold the analog trigger down, and you have to be moving the analog stick. What the fuck? Why did they do this? It's so stupid. Just let the boost boost. Why was this change necessary? The problem's also exacerbated by certain level layouts where Sonic will be automatically running, and you can just hold the boost trigger like normal. But most of the time, you'll go off a dash pad while boosting, and Sonic will just stop in his tracks. All because you weren't holding the analog stick forward. Some of you may be thinking, well, if you don't like how the boost works, then just don't use it all the time. I would gladly like to do so. But unfortunately, without boosting, here's what Sonic's top maxed out speed looks like. This is garbage. So no, you have to boost if you actually want to get anywhere in these overworlds. I feel like trying to patch the boost back into being how it was in Unleashed is almost impossible, seeing how the rest of the game is already designed around how butchered it is. I guess we could just wait 5 years for the next game to fix this, but why? Why do we have to wait another 5 years? Why can't the games just play good now? Why do we keep excusing these whack design choices in hopes that a future game will eventually fix them? That feels like the Forces approach all over again. You know, since they went out of their way to remap the boost on the controller, wouldn't it have been a little cool if Sonic's speed varied on how hard you were holding down the analog trigger? I think that would have been a pretty neat mechanic. But then again, the Switch version probably wouldn't have been able to do that. But whatever, I still think that was a pretty hugely missed opportunity. Quick question, but where's the spin dash? What happened to it? Why does it just not appear in the modern games anymore? Hell, I'll even take the really simple one from Lost World. This game has zero ground physics to begin with. They couldn't just give us that spin dash? Alright, I am nitpicking and maybe going overboard in some places, but I still enjoyed playing Sonic Frontiers. It isn't unplayable, but there's still a lot of jank here that I wish could have been ironed out. But I guess focusing on more positive things, graphically, this game can look quite nice. The Hedgehog Engine 2 finally gets a real chance to shine, and I think it's a massive improvement over Forces. I still wouldn't say it comes as close to looking as good as Unleashed, but I'm glad the graphics in this game aren't as cheap looking as before, though the pop-in is extremely noticeable across the board, but I'm pretty sure everyone is gonna notice that. Easily the coolest thing about this game's graphics is that all 5 islands have a day and night cycle, which I know isn't actually that new of an idea, but it's still really cool in this particular context. Remember, Sonic 2006 was gonna have a system similar to this, but that ended up getting scrapped, so it's really neat to finally see an idea like this get realized in a future Sonic game. While the lighting can be super cool and dynamic, it can lead to some kinda ugly looking scenery during certain parts of the day, specifically when the sun is setting or rising. It can make the environments look a bit washed out, so I feel like the game can either look its best when the sun is completely out, or when it's just plain nighttime. There's even weather elements, which is pretty cool, though a part of me kinda wishes they had an option for snow, or at least give us an island that was snow themed. Oh well. The game also greatly benefits from being played in 60 frames a second, so I highly recommend using that mode if you have access to it, unless you're on Switch, then sorry. I remember booting up the game and almost panicking when it was running at 30 frames a second, but you have to actually go into the options menu and choose 60 frames a second. Thank God. Focusing on what you actually do in the game, clearly these huge islands are going to give you a lot to extend your game time. 4 of the 5 locations have massive open areas where Sonic can run around and look for specific missions, or items that'll need for progression. Okay, the game calls them missions, but a lot of these just include doing small tasks and puzzles. I'll try to mention a few specific ones once I look at each island, but to summarize for right now, a few of the missions can be decent time wasters, but something you'll notice is that a lot of them get repeated on either different islands, or even on the same island just spread far apart. I am glad that these are here so the open worlds aren't entirely empty, though it does get a little repetitive doing the same missions over and over again. They're not an awful idea though. They could just really use some more expanding in a future game. Though I do think the idea of night-only missions is really stupid, and I've never been a fan of when games do this. So if you're trying to 100% the game, you might end up coming across one last mission on the island that you can't do because the sun is out, meaning you'll very likely have to wait around. Kinda reminds me of Majora's Mask. What are the missions for? Well, completing a mission can earn you some items for leveling up your abilities, along with adding more to your map screen. To progress in the actual story, you'll need to collect these character-specific items and deliver them to cyberspace projections of the characters. If you're having difficulty knowing where to go, you can obviously use the map screen, or even the little compass thing at the top of the screen, which you can rotate by moving the camera. Yeah, it's a very small thing, but I'm really happy we have camera controls in a modern Sonic game again. Jeez, when was the last time we had this? Unleashed? However, there's also the Chaos Emeralds to collect from those ancient devices. You can also earn a few Chaos Emeralds by completing story-centered quests, but most of the time you're gonna have to acquire them from the ancient shrines. You have to collect a specific amount of ancient keys to unlock the emeralds. But where exactly do you get the keys from? Well, you can come across these chest holograms that you can open up by side looping around them. They'll usually contain a character-specific item, but sometimes they'll have a key, but it's always just one, and it's very rare to come across. The main place you're supposed to get keys is by doing, well, first off, you can come across these Guardian battles in the overworld that you'll have to defeat. Defeating them will usually earn you a gear, which can be used to open up these ancient gateways. These take you to the parts of the game I've been dreading to talk about, Cyberspace. Cyberspace is basically the Unleashed Generations Forces parts of the game, where they have you running fast through a short level, with 4 different missions to do that earn you a key from each. This can range from simply beating the level, or by finishing it in a short amount of time. I'm gonna get this out of the way right now. This cyberspace crap is easily the worst part of the game, and I'm not too sure how many fans are gonna go out of their way to defend this. They're not very fun, they reuse the same 4 level themes over and over, 3 of which we've already seen get brought back in the past decade, hell 2 of which were already in the last 2 games! This is inexcusable! What the fuck was the point of including cyberspace? This honestly feels really tacked on, almost like Sonic Team couldn't fully commit to the new ideas they wanted to do, so maybe some higher up at Sega forced them to do this. And I already had my gripes with the way Sonic handles in this game, but in Cyberspace, he somehow controls and plays worse. The initial concept of putting this neutered version of the boost gameplay back in the original Unleashed in Generations level design, that seemed like a bad idea at first, but he just controls way worse here than he does in the overworld. He's nowhere near as fast anymore, and the boost getting butchered really doesn't help. He literally plays worse here than he did in Forces. Like, how the hell did that happen? By the way, do you remember the drift? Remember how fun it was to use in Unleashed, and especially in Generations? Well, just like in Forces, you can't use the drift normally. Instead, the drift is only in one cyberspace level, and it functions just like it did in Sonic Colors, and it feels like total dog shit. I know, it's just for one cyberspace level, but honestly, seeing the drift get ruined like this just sucks ass, man. I know the director for this game directed Colors, which is where the mechanics for this drift originated, but did he just forget that the drift is a normal mechanic that Sonic had used since Unleashed? Well, rest in peace, Drift. Adding more to the cyberspace problems, there were just some really weird and borderline lazy decisions that were made here, like reusing whole-ass level layouts from previous games, which I personally think is a very disastrous idea, cause it could really highlight how even more butchered the boost gameplay can be. While I am annoyed that the Generations and sometimes Unleashed designs get copied and pasted, I think hands down the worst example was the Green Hill Zone level, that was just Skyrail from SA2. Why? I can sort of get reusing the Generations and Unleashed layouts to save time and focus on the open world stuff, but why is Sonic playing through a version of a level he never went to before? I am aware that there is a story purpose for why these level layouts are being reused, and I once again thank Ian Flynn for trying to rectify this game's narrative problems, but I just do not think this was a good enough reason to justify lazy game design. Even when looking at it from a story perspective, that doesn't even make sense. How could Sonic remember a level he never went to? And also, why would he be remembering it as Green Hill? This isn't the only example of an SA2 layout being reused, but this was probably the worst case because it just makes no sense. The red rings also make another appearance here, but their only purpose is that if you collect all 5 of them in a cyberspace level, you'll be given another key. This is definitely a me issue, and don't get me wrong, I'm glad they're not totally pointless here like they were in Sonic 4 Episode 2, but I kinda miss the way that they were used in Generations. You know, where they can unlock concept art, music, a bunch of extra stuff. I guess I just miss this kind of extra content in Sonic games. Tangent over, but Cyberspace is hot dookie. It easily could have been cut from the game, and if they're gonna try to tackle this concept again in the future, please fucking stop reusing Green Hill, Chemical Plant, and Sky Sanctuary. At this point, with the first two, it literally makes no sense anymore. Iizuka tried justifying that the levels were brought back to be seen as Easter eggs for older Sonic players, but that reason just comes off incredibly tone deaf. Iizuka, we have been seeing these same Easter eggs for the past 13 years. Let it go. Let modern Sonic be fully original again. Green Hill alone has been in every fucking game. On the bright side, most of the cyberspace levels are insanely short, and they don't actually take up that much game time, which maybe adds more to the fact that they probably should have been cut altogether. I did like how crazy that one city level looks in cyberspace, but I wish it could have got used for more interesting parts. But I guess it still looked pretty cool. Alright, flipping once again from negative to positive. Let's say you don't want to go to cyberspace and want to collect keys another way. Is there another option? Yes, usually. This leads me to a part of the game that I didn't expect myself to enjoy as much as I did. On each island, at least one of the cyberspace gateways is dedicated to a little fishing minigame featuring none other than Big the Cat. This minigame is such a nice treat. Basically, on each island, you can find purple coins to collect. Yep, an idea lifted straight from Mario Odyssey. You couldn't at least make them blue coins or some shit? But anyways, the coins can be used to pay big so you could keep fishing. The fishing mechanics are super basic. Just pay to cast the lure, then once the lure is pulled down, you press the button at the right time to reel in your catch, which can earn you some fishing tokens. Again, super basic, but it really captures the perfect kind of vibe for this minigame. I actually looked forward to going back to fishing every time I finished an island. But is there an actual point to this minigame? Well, you can earn some fishing tokens when you catch a fish, and these can be traded in an item shop. These can include stuff from the overworld like gears, ancient keys, character items, and even leveling up items like the seeds and cocos. Wait, Big is selling a bunch of living cocos on the market? What the hell? So yeah, if you don't want to constantly deal with the headaches of cyberspace, or you're kind of getting bored unlocking these items through the missions in the overworld, you can just go to Big's fishing game and get all the items from there. It's a neat alternative, but by the time you reach the last island, the payout for your catches just get greater and greater, meaning you can literally rack up a bunch of fishing tokens and just purchase all the items you'll need, without ever actually needing to do anything on the islands. Oh yeah, you can also catch these little map items that can grant you fast traveling to the Elder and Hermit Cocos, in case you wanted to instantly go to them to level up your stats. This can also be used as just regular fast travel since there's multiple Elder and Hermit Cocos spread throughout the island. Some of the other things you can catch is a realistic alligator. That's a bit confusing to the game lore. But then again, Vector is a crocodile, not an alligator. There's also ancient tablets, acorns, and turtles. You can also look at everything you've caught in the Fishopedia. Yeah, I see what you did there, game. Plus, the shop even lets you purchase those egg memos that I mentioned earlier, which you can go listen to in the Fishopedia. Wait, why are Eggman's audio logs in the Fishopedia? Like, of all places? Of course, you can only fish as long as you have enough purple coins. And while there's a lot of them you can find on the islands, don't be too surprised if you still come up short. But in one of the game's more cool occurrences, I guess, sometimes at night, you'll see some starfall. This will make a slot machine prompt appear and you can go collect these starbit looking items? I'm not really sure how the mechanics of this work, but basically, if you get lucky while collecting starbits, the slot machine can literally give you hundreds of purple coins, meaning you'll have even more opportunities to go fishing with Big. When I first played through the game, I actually couldn't find where Big's minigame was for a while, so by the time I got to the last island, I had about 900 purple coins to spare, which I stacked up thanks to the starfall bits, and I ended up earning a shit ton of fishing tokens. Yeah, I guess if there is one negative aspect about the fishing game, it's that the item shop can easily render doing anything else in the game completely worthless, since you can literally just buy everything you need from there. Hell, at this point in time, you don't even have to try to get tokens from fishing. If you install the Monster Hunter DLC, it'll let you cook a little piece of meat, and if you get the timing on it properly, you can earn free fishing tokens. Seriously, they're free. You don't even have to pay to cook, which also means you wouldn't even have to go fishing at all to get every item. That is so broken. This is still a really neat minigame, but for the most part, it's super OP. I also just love seeing Big have a presence in this game at all. He doesn't have a story reason to be there. The man is just hanging around and fishing, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I also wouldn't mind this minigame getting brought back, especially if they could keep improving on it in any way. The minigame music is also one of the most relaxing things I've ever heard for a Sonic game. Very lo-fi and nice sounding, perfectly fitting the vibe. I really love it. I guess bringing it up now, the soundtrack for Frontiers is definitely a good highlight. Tomoyo Otani is once again the sound director, and his work here is a big improvement over Forces. The overworlds all have very relaxing songs to accompany them, but I will admit I kinda wish we had more faster paced sounding tracks. The orchestra and piano are fine and usually do a great job, but I kinda would've liked a bit more rock elements in it more, or at least have an electric or acoustic guitar playing somewhere. The orchestral stuff can be a little bit forgettable and also gave me heavy vibes to Kingdom Hearts at some points. I hope I'm not the only one who hears the similarities. And while I'm really not too fond of the Cyberspace levels, the music in them is actually where I'd say most of the soundtrack shines. It does kinda give off Sonic Forces vibes, but here, it sounds like Otani and the rest of the composers found a much better way to approach this style of music. Stage 1-4 Genshin is probably my favorite Cyberspace track, or probably my favorite song in the game. I love the instrumentation and the quick pace of it, and it makes me sad that the actual level itself is so brief and boring. A lot of the Cyberspace tracks can feel that way. I recommend looking them up because they're really solid. Apparently the official soundtrack release is going to be filled with 150 songs on it, so it might hold the record for the longest soundtrack ever made for a Sonic game. I feel like most of my feelings for the soundtrack may have to wait until that gets officially released, that way I can have an actual way to listen to it. But for the songs we do have access to, there's not really a single one that I disliked. The vocal tracks are fine. I thought I'm Here was okay. It kinda sounds like the singer couldn't exactly hit the high notes, especially at the end, but apart from that, the song's alright. Vandalized by 1OK Rock was pretty good, but I don't actually remember it being played anywhere, though that's probably because I played the game on hard mode, since the song apparently only plays for the easy and normal modes. For some reason. The song itself is good, but I gotta admit, I think it's pretty damn funny that there's an official Sonic vocal track, which also has an explicit version with the lyrics "fuck the pain away." Obviously, that version's not in the game, but holy crap, that is hilarious. Someone better make a mod for it on Steam. While I'm not entirely sure why they only have Vandalize play during the easy and normal modes, I'm gonna assume that was done so hard mode can make way for One Way Dream, featuring YouTuber Nate Wants to Battle. And this song was fine. I'll be honest, I'm not super into Nate's stuff, but I won't deny the dude's got talent and the song he did for Frontiers is alright. Just not one of my personal favorites. There's also vocal songs when you're facing off the bosses, which I'll talk about a little later, but I was kinda shocked at how much these songs sounded almost like nu metal, like of all genres for a Sonic game. Don't get me wrong, I usually love nu metal. It just caught me off guard that these fucking epic boss fights had fucking Slipknot sounding music, so this was definitely a neat addition. Overall, Sonic Frontiers has a very solid soundtrack with a lot of good stuff in it. Still not my personal favorite from Otani, but it's not bad. I'm not completely done talking about the soundtrack, but I'll be mentioning it again at later parts in the review. So initially, I was gonna complain that there was no sound test to listen to the music, but literally while I was still in the middle of editing this video, Sega announced more free DLC coming up, and one of which is gonna be a jukebox. So I guess that problem's fixed. I'm not too sure why the game couldn't have that at launch, but at least we know it's coming soon. Still no theater for rewatching the cutscenes though, so here's hoping they could also include that. I guess now would be a good time to go down this game's islands. Sonic Frontiers takes place on 5 islands throughout the story: Kronos Island, Rhea Island, Chaos Island, Rhea Island, and Ouranos Island. You start out on Kronos Island, which is a grassy level with a few fields of roses spread throughout, along with some ancient ruins to look at. It's not a bad first open zone. Quick side note, I like how the loading screens can be tutorials. I think that's a really cool idea, and you can even customize the HUD in the options menu. I wasn't sure where to fit this part in, but the options are there and it's really neat. Oh yeah, I know I briefly mentioned that the light dash is in this game, but with the lack of momentum, it can feel a bit jank. Like you'll click the analog stick and shoot forward, and then Sonic will just stop in place. Yeah, it just doesn't have the same type of feel it had in previous games. You can also light dash on a trail of rings that's pointed straight up, which can look a bit goofy. And by the way, there's a trick system in this game, but it is a little shitty. Basically, Sonic can either go off these ramps, or fly off a certain surface at the right speed, and he'll enter a trick mode. You just move the analog stick a bunch of times to do some tricks, and it can help you earn a little more skill points. It wasn't a horrible idea, but what kind of ruins this is that Sonic's animations are just dog shit. He's animated way too fast and looks unnatural, almost like he's having muscle spasms in the air. It's just whack. And it also ain't got shit on Generations trick system. Like, holy shit. I did bring up the character items, but these can vary depending on which island you're on. So on Kronos Island, you're collecting hearts for Amy, which is pretty cute. While you're normally getting keys to unlock the Chaos Emeralds, and collecting enough character items to progress in the story, Kronos Island is one of the levels where you can only get 4 emeralds from those device thingies. You end up getting 2 more emeralds by completing, well, the game calls them quests, but they're pretty much 2 short missions. The first one has you moving a bunch of Cocos towards Amy. Some of them can drop bombs too, so you better look out. Sonic can only afford to get hit 3 times, and his little icons are classic Sonic. I think that's pretty adorable. The second mission involves cutting tall grass using the Psyloop ability. Okay, I don't mind doing quests to earn Chaos Emeralds, but these 2 missions are insanely simple. It kinda makes the Chaos Emeralds feel unearned since they're given to you so easily. Like, remember the good old days when we had to unlock them in special stages? Whatever. Now, you can only collect 6 emeralds on the actual islands, but the 7th emeralds are always saved for the Titans, which leads me to the boss fights. Sonic will have to get the 7th emerald from the Titans, that way he can go supersonic and fight them off. While this can mostly consist of button mashing and parrying over and over again, I gotta admit, these boss fights are still a ton of fun. I honestly didn't really have that big an issue with any of them, really. The only boss I didn't really like too much was the true final boss on hard mode, but I'll discuss that much later. The first boss fight on Kronos Island is with a pretty huge boy named Giganto, and smacking the hell out of him is pretty satisfying. And I know I commented about the boss music being super nu metal sounding. It's not a bad thing, I actually love the way it sounds. The track for this fight is called Undefeatable, sung by Kellen Quinn of Sleeping Quinn, who also sings on the other 2 Titan boss fights. I'm glad to see vocal themes have become more commonplace in Sonic games again, which is like one of the only positives I'll give Sonic Force's soundtrack for doing. Again, it's a good song and it really fits the intense action going on. Well, after you defeat a Titan, Sonic will fly off to the next island, and upon arriving, the Chaos Emeralds immediately scatter. How convenient. So yeah, you pretty much gotta do the same stuff all over again, which can get pretty repetitive. The second island is Ouranos Island, and it's a desert-themed level, which is a pretty generic choice, especially as the second level no less. But this island actually grew on me. While you are doing more of the same stuff you did on Kronos Island, Ouranos does try changing a few things up. For example, I think this is the zone where it introduces the idea of island-specific enemies you can fight, which is an idea from the classic games where each zone had unique enemies in them. I genuinely miss this concept a lot, and it feels like a lot more recent Sonic games keep forgetting this. I know an argument can definitely be made that the mass majority of these enemies aren't Eggman creations, but enemies like the shark, for example, only being on Ouranos Island, it just makes me wish that they could have committed more to this idea, instead of just reusing most of the same enemies over and over again. Though I will say, that umbrella enemy on this island is super annoying. Basically, if you get close to it, it'll shoot straight up in the air, and it'll automatically make the camera lock in on him. This can be extremely irritating if you're just running around like normal, only to run past one of these enemies at the corner of your eye, making the camera get all messed up and ruin your flow. I hate that shit. But back to the other things on the island, Ouranos has you collecting medals for Knuckles. And just like on Kronos Island, you can only get 4 of the emeralds from the shrines, and 2 more in quests. The quest where you have to guide the Cocos to the character is reused, but now when they drop a bomb, it'll cause a dust storm to appear. It's a little annoying, but honestly, I kinda like environmental stuff like that in these types of games. I especially like the cold dust winds you can see on this island a few times, along with the heat wave effects. It's genuinely really cool. The second quest to get an emerald involves collecting a bunch of Cocos, but this time you can carry them on your shoulder, and the more you carry, the faster you go. I'd recommend not carrying them all at once. I made that mistake the first time and it was kind of hell. Also, one weird design choice on this island is that some of the platforming sections included 2.5D areas. It's kind of a weird inclusion for what's supposed to be a 3D open world, but at least these parts are brief. The Titan fight for this island is called the Wyvern, accompanied by the boss music Break Through It All, which I think sounds just as good as the previous boss fight. This boss is okay. It tries to change it up by having Sonic do some platforming to reach the emerald, but the actual fight itself felt the most on rails compared to the others. It's a cool concept to have Sonic flying around the entire island while fighting, but a lot of it is just the same button mashing as the other boss fights. I think when compared to the other Titans, this one was probably my least favorite fight. Not awful, just not as fun. Alright, next is Chaos Island, and sadly this might be my least favorite one. I initially thought that Ouranos was going to be my least favorite seeing how I'm not super into desert levels, but Chaos Island kind of fucks up a few things I was liking about the game. Like, first off, this level is ugly to look at. It's just brown and sometimes gray depending on what time of day it is. But the biggest issue I have with this island is, for whatever reason, it tries being both 3D and 2D. Spread throughout the entire island are these 2.5D sections that you briefly saw in Ouranos, but now take up the majority of Chaos. My main issue with this is that I don't see what point there could have been to include these. We already have 2.5D sections in fucking Cyberspace, so why did Chaos Island need all this shit? This honestly would have been a perfectly fine level if they didn't shove these parts in. You can even jump out of the 2D axis when playing these parts, so it can make these areas more jank and inconsistent with the rest of the game. It's almost like they're another obstacle for Sonic to avoid. It was kinda disappointing seeing the game cave in on the open world concept just 3 islands in. Another really basic thing Chaos Island screws up are the item chests. On the first 2 islands, you open the item chest up, and they could give you, well, items. But Chaos Island introduces this really dumb concept of having the holograms unlock these level-based stuff like dash pads and springs? Why? Come on, Sonic Team, at least make a different hologram for these ones. What the fuck? But anyways, Chaos Island has you doing the same stuff from the last 2 islands. But this time you're helping Tails by collecting wrenches for him, which kinda gave me Sonic Boom vibes for some reason. This is also the one level in the game where there's lava and it's an instant kill, so just don't touch the lava. Oh yeah, the game also froze on me while I was recording. This didn't happen to me in any other level, and it's not like the game crashed, it just froze for a few seconds. Then it continued like normal. It was pretty strange. There was also a part where I noticed the surfaces on these puddles of water kept popping in and out as I rotated the camera. Not too sure what that's about. Chaos Island also has these ice surfaces, which are on top of these mountains, and I think they're supposed to halt Sonic's progression and maybe try directing him to an alternate pathway, but you can literally just shoot past these parts by using the drop dash. So there's a fun exploit you can try at home, kids. This island is also where I realized that they brought back two things from the previous games. The classic springs, for some reason, and those launcher things from Unleashed and Generations. The classic springs seem a bit weird, especially when we already have the regular ones we've been using throughout the game. I would have liked if they maybe made the classic springs have physics, you know, like the classic games, while the modern springs had set momentum like always, but they didn't bother doing that. You also can't home in on the classic springs, which is weird. I would excuse it a little if it was only the classic springs that had this issue, but there's even a few modern springs that you can't home in on. Just another weird but also incredibly inconsistent aspect about this game. Speaking of inconsistent, why do these launchers function so weird? Like, some of them let you choose your own direction like in Generations, but a lot of them still function like they did in Unleashed, where you have to press a specific button to activate them. But even then, those don't even function exactly like they did in Unleashed, because you literally have to press the right button to use them. Whereas Unleashed would still let you press any other button to shoot in any other direction, but Frontiers doesn't let you do that. How does this keep happening? How does this game keep janking up things that worked just fine 11 to 14 years ago? Okay, moving on. Chaos Island includes these jump rope missions. Alright. Another Odyssey callback, I guess. Oh yeah, this island also has you play these short mini games, and they play like an old arcadey shooter, kinda like Galaga or something. You can shoot black and white bullets. The reason being is that some of the projectiles are also color based, so if you shoot the corresponding color then you won't get hurt. You play this minigame like 2 or 3 times, and they're not an awful idea, just as long as they're brief and not used for anything major. Foreshadowing. And near the end of the island, we end up having to play another minigame. A pinball machine! Yeah, this game has you play pinball for a bit. You have to score up to 5 million points for whatever reason. The best strategy to reach this is by collecting the red rings, which can randomly appear on the pinball table and can act as multipliers. I'm not sure why the score requirement was made so huge for this part. I feel like it probably should have been lower, but I'm also not the hugest fan of the pinball physics here. Yes, I know a lot of you are probably annoyed by hearing me talk about that, but it's different. We're talking about fucking pinball. If the physics aren't perfect for pinball, then it's total garbage. But thankfully for the most part, the physics are alright, just not great. Not too much else to really add for this part. After pinball, this leads to the third Titan boss, the Knight. This one's a pretty decent improvement on the Wyvern fight from Ares. It's a lot more intense, and I love how the parrying move is used here. You can block the Knight's sword, and also shoot its shield back at him. It's a lot of fun. This one might be my favorite Titan boss fight out of all of them. I just really love the fast pacing of this one, and also how quickly the Knight himself is constantly moving. The boss music, Find Your Flame, is another solid vocal track. Kellen Quinn does vocals on it, but the song also features Tyler Smith, who some of you may remember doing the theme music for Infinite in Sonic Forces. In fact, this vocal track includes a lot of mirroring aspects of Infinite's theme, like some of the lyrics, and even a bit of the melody. While I'm personally still not super into Infinite's theme song, I think it's still pretty cool that they incorporated some of it into Find Your Flame, and bringing back the original singer was a good call too. Defeating the Knight takes Sonic to the next island. Kind of? Yeah, this is actually the part of the game where it sort of loses me. The fourth island you go to is called Rhea Island, and upon looking at the environments and even the map for the level, it's literally just Kronos Island again. Except, you know, you're actually able to explore the upper part, but not the bottom part because that shit's blocked off by an invisible wall. The main objective in this island is that you have to travel up 6 towers and activate these cyberspace devices at the top. That is all you have to do on this island. I mean, there is an open forest for you to run around in, but there's no missions or really anything to do. So pretty much everyone who's gonna play this game is gonna end up beating Rhea Island at 100%. I guess focusing on the actual towers, they are pretty decent platforming challenges, and it can be pretty exhilarating being so high up in the air. But this does mean if you fall off, you could end up falling all the way down to the ground. Thankfully, the game will give you zip lines so you can have a quick shortcut back up, so you don't really lose your progress. It's not not bad, and the level does introduce these sorta jello water type enemies, which you can get sucked into and you'll have to stomp your way out of them. These enemies are a fun idea, I like them. Though there is one really weird detail about them that comes from the sound department. You see, the usual drowning music isn't in this game normally, but you can drown when you stay underwater for a while. But it's incredibly rare, so getting sucked into these enemies is one of the only real times where you can potentially drown. But whenever you do start to drown inside these enemies, believe it or not, this is where you're gonna hear the drowning music. What the fuck? Why is this the only part of the game where you hear the music? And by the sound of it, it's the same one from Colors. I mean, it does fit the rest of the game's soundtrack, so I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. But why is it only this enemy that plays the drowning music? It's so weird. I don't have a lot else to say about Rhea Island because there's literally nothing else to mention. It's just the top area of Kronos Island. There's nothing here to do when you beat the towers. It lasts about half an hour tops, and it's kind of pointless. So I'll move on to the fifth and last island, Ouranos Island. Huh. Familiar grassy fields, areas with roses, ancient ruin structures, collecting heart items again. Gee, this level sure is giving me a sense of deja vu. Or could it be that this is just the same fucking level again? They literally just reused the assets from Kronos Island again. What the fuck was this game's budget? Okay, sure, the map is totally different, and there are some missions on this island that weren't on Kronos, but the scenery is almost the exact same. The only real graphical difference is that this island seems to get stormy weather the most, which is fitting for a final stage, but the stormy lighting really doesn't suit this level too well. Overall, I'm just really disappointed with how the last few islands of the game turned out, and I wish Sonic Team were able to come up with something better. But this absolutely feels like it was more Sega's fault than Sonic Team's. And to cut it some slack, I do think this island is a bit better than the last two, so I'll give the game that. Okay, I'm pretty sure Chaos Island did this first, but there's these almost 3D Tetris-like puzzles you can do. They're probably my favorite ones out of the whole game, and this island has a few of them to do. Okay, I don't really have much else to say about this island. It just looks painfully similar to Kronos. You can come across a bit of 2.5D sections, but thankfully they weren't as severe as Chaos Island. Alright, time for the last Titan, specifically the pre-final boss Titan, Supreme. It looks pretty damn similar to the Giganto fight from the first island. Probably another sign that Sonic Team was running out of money and needed to reuse something from Kronos again. But at the very least, it's about as fast-paced and fun as the Giganto fight, and it's honestly not a horrible choice for the last Titan. The boss theme this time around is the main vocal theme, I'm Here, and I actually really like the way they incorporated the song into the fight. The first half mainly plays an instrumental version, so you don't actually hear the vocals come in until the second half, and it's actually timed really well. It makes defeating the boss fight even more satisfying. Overall, it's another solid Titan battle. Now, for anyone who decided to watch this far into the review and you still somehow don't want to know what the true final boss is like, then skip to this point in the video because I'm gonna start talking about it in 3, 2, 1... After defeating the Supreme Titan, Sage takes control of it and teams up with Super Sonic to defeat the true final boss, the end. And it's really disappointing. Instead of it being some huge epic final battle, it's just the space shooter minigame from before. So you're just shooting at this huge moon over and over again until its health goes down. The only things you'll have to worry about are the color coordinated projectiles, and some laser attacks that the end can shoot. Being as brutally honest about this like I've been in this entire review, this is, quite frankly, the lamest final boss ever put into a Sonic game. Don't get me wrong, it functions just fine, and there are most definitely some final bosses in the previous games that were probably way worse, or just borderline unfun, but this, just as a concept, is a horrible final boss fight. It should have just stayed as a minigame from earlier. I was kind of hoping that there was going to be another phase after this that was actually bigger and grander, but no, this is it. This is how Sonic Frontiers ends. What a bad way to end the game. I think the music didn't help either. Like, it sounds perfectly fine, just like the rest of the soundtrack. I like it on its own, but it really doesn't scream final boss worthy, especially considering previous games had absolutely iconic final boss music. but this one just felt very underwhelming. It makes this feel like an Undertale boss. Not even a final Undertale boss, just a regular ass one. I guess I should give them props for trying something different for a final boss, and it wasn't just the same sort of idea we saw in Colors, Lost World, and Forces, but that really doesn't excuse it either, cause even Forces' final boss felt like a final boss, even if I didn't like it that much. Oh yeah, during the space shooter, the end talks all throughout it, and even says this golden line. Okay, I know I'm not the first one to mention this, but you can't just have the main villain say that during the fight, especially not when Infinite the character was literally name dropped earlier in the game. Fun fact, by the way, this final boss is only accessible if you choose the hard mode, meaning both the easy and normal modes end with the Supreme Titan, which was a far more satisfying and fun boss fight. So yeah, the final boss sucks, but at the very least, I do still like the game's ending from a story perspective. Sage's sacrifice is still really sad, and that final shot with Eggman before the credits still sells it really well, and the first song we hear in the credits is also really good. It's called Dear Father, being sung by Quinn Barnett. It's a really nice piano track to close out the game, and it also gives me very heavy vibes to Dear My Friend from Sonic Unleashed. Makes a lot of sense with Dear My Friend being a song for Chip, while Dear Father is a song for Sage. It's kinda like poetry, it rhymes. So way to go, Otani.
Father, I just wanna tell you, thank you for all that you've given me.
And I think that's all there is for me to really talk about with Sonic Frontiers. I guess one thing I didn't really mention yet is that Super Sonic is only playable in the boss fights, which kinda sucks, but at the same time, seeing how you can fly and everything, I wonder how OP that really would have made Sonic come off in the game. There is a mod on PC that lets you do this, so I guess go check it out for yourself. I'm also gonna assume they just didn't have the time or money to make a regular Super Sonic mode. But focusing on everything else, you can travel back to each island through the map, and I guess you can finish completing all the missions, but after you do that, you can't really play them anymore. So there's basically nothing else to really do on the islands apart from run around and explore more. But I guess that kinda comes with the territory for these kinda open world games. There is an arcade mode, but it's just for going to the Cyberspace levels. Is this game expecting me to want to replay the Cyberspace levels? Well, I got some bad news. Why'd they bother calling this arcade mode? Don't you think if they were gonna title it that, it would have included more than just Cyberspace? Like, why not include the other space shooting levels? Or even the pinball machine? You know, so it could be more of an arcade? Why not include the boss fights? Even the final boss, fuck it! You could've just made this a basic time trials mode. Whatever. As I was editing, we did finally get a review on what they plan on doing for DLC. I am interested to see all of it in the future, though I won't lie, the jukebox, photo mode, and new challenge modes feel like something that should have been in the base game, so I'm gonna assume that despite the 5-year development time, some aspects of Frontiers was probably still rushed in the end, so they probably have to cut these basic modes for the time being. I am interested to see what the new playable characters are gonna be like. Like, I'm sure Ian Flynn is handling the story, so it's gonna be just fine. But for the playable characters, it's interesting that this will be the first time we'll get to play as Tails, Knuckles, and Amy since, like, what, 2006? You know, not counting spin-offs. It's pretty exciting, but I am a bit worried if they're just gonna be model swaps for Sonic, kinda like Shadow and Forces, or are they gonna actually play differently? I guess we'll have to wait and see. But looking at the DLC we currently have, they actually included the soap shoes in the game as free DLC, but you gotta go subscribe to their newsletter, at least until January 2023. And I think after that point you can't sign up to get the soap shoes anymore. Seems kinda strange. Why don't they just put this up as free normal DLC? There is the Monster Hunter DLC that I mentioned earlier, where you can just cook things and earn fishing tokens, but it also has that exploit where you can just keep earning tokens over and over again at no additional cost. God, I love how broken this minigame is. Side note, but a part of me really wishes they do DLC where you can have skins for Sonic. Like, maybe give us an option to use a Dreamcast model of him. I know Mario Odyssey already did that idea first, and even Crash Bandicoot 4 did that, that, and it kind of fucking failed. But come on, it's a cute idea. Someone did pretty quickly make a mod for it on PC, so even if the future DLC does disappoint, there are still going to be PC mods that we can look forward to in the future. And that's basically about it. Sonic Frontiers just doesn't have a whole lot of replay value. You do have 3 save slots for additional playthroughs, but this is a far more demanding and lengthy game to play compared to other games. So I'd really have to be in the right mood to want to play through a game like this again. The first 2 islands are good and fun. The 3rd island has a lot of really annoying design choices that don't really warrant going back to play it. The 4th island is practically pointless, and the 5th island is just the 1st island again, but with a little more. The story is solid and the graphics do look good, but I'm not too big on the English voice acting, and there's a lot of weird graphical pop-in issues, and the lighting system can make everything look washed out at points. The music is mostly good, but I'm really starting to miss the rock genre being more prominent in this field recently. I know some fans may think, well, this game wasn't perfect, but maybe they'll improve things for the next one. I heard a decent amount of people say that for Forces too, but look at where that led us. I just don't understand why we're still excusing games being released in this state when we know Sonic Team is damn well capable of putting out better quality products. Don't believe me? Just look at other Sega IPs for example. Stuff like Yakuza looks fucking phenomenal. Even Phantasy Star Online 2 looks amazing. Just look at how impressive and fantastic those games can appear. Then look at Sonic Frontiers. Clearly, Sega has been giving higher priorities to their other IPs because Sonic just isn't in their best interest. But unlike a Nights into Dreams, Jet Set Radio, or even Samba de Amigo, Sonic the Hedgehog still sells really well, so they really can't just ditch the blue rodent. He's their mascot and he has a dedicated fanbase that'll buy any game they put out, and any version of a game they'll release. Hell, we even have 2 decently successful movies. Maybe not so much critically, but definitely financially, which can be pretty unheard of in that type of industry. It breaks my heart seeing Sonic Team have to resort to using the same assets we saw 10 years ago, still get reused in Frontiers. They even had to resort to reusing original graphics made for this game. It's apparently been reported that Sonic Team is heavily underemployed, so there's not a lot of manpower behind these games' creations to begin with, or at least not as much as I think a lot of us maybe think there should be. I mean, using this game as an example again, look at a game like Sonic Unleashed. Sure, maybe you don't agree with a lot of the design choices, but there were so many people who really put their heart and soul into that game, and it really shows. It also shows that after that game came out, a lot of those employees who really cared about the franchise ended up leaving Sega, and even a few of them would go work on Breath of the Wild and Mario Odyssey. So either Sega needs to start actually giving Sonic Team the right amount of assets to start making quality Sonic games again, or these games are just gonna keep dipping in quality for years to come. A little like the Pokemon franchise. Damn, Sonic fans and Pokemon fans eating pretty mid these days. But as much as I've been complaining about Sonic Frontiers' jank lack of polish, I do still think the game is quite good. The open world concept is a fantastic idea and I definitely think they should keep exploring it. Most of the new stuff they were able to come up with for this game is really good. So Sonic Team, or whoever the hell's in charge of telling them what to do, stop pussyfooting around with these new games and just commit to your fully original ideas again. I know a great deal of people, myself included, were not fond of Forces, but when focusing on that game's positives, almost everyone enjoyed the new stuff they came up with, like the custom hero, that one fully 3D modern Sonic level, and even the new look of that Metropolis level despite the reused name. But despite its bland level design and kinda lackluster gameplay, what was the most common complaint that Forces had? All the rehash shit. Enough of the rehashing. You've made it not special anymore, and the reason for why we keep seeing it is just super misguided. I want to see Sonic improve and get better, but outside forces are continuing to hold him back. Again, I hope things at Sonic Team can change in the future, and we get another truly great 3D Sonic game again. Regardless, I am happy with some changes, mainly seeing a qualified writer like Ian Flynn writing the games now, so while the writing is receiving an upgrade, I'd really like to see everything else improve too. So maybe get rid of the tired boost gameplay and just whip up something new for the next one. Make a new style that can really take advantage of the open world concept. Maybe then they could bring back momentum in classic physics. You know how games like Odyssey and Breath of the Wild were able to make the open world concepts fun to play through? Because Mario and Link's abilities and movement really added a lot to the gameplay. So if they're gonna keep doing the open world thing, I really want to see them take that approach with Sonic. With all that said, I don't have much else to say about Frontiers. It was good, but it could definitely use a lot of improvements. I wasn't expecting this video to end up becoming a Cooper's Perspective length review again, but at the same time, it felt kinda nice having a new Sonic game that actually gave me so much to talk about again. At the same time, I look forward to the usual hate comments from people telling me, "Stop bitching about the voice acting!" Or even the, "No one cares about your reviews!" Then those people proceed to type up paragraph worths of rants telling me that they don't care about my content. I want those people to know that I greatly appreciate their efforts. Thank you for caring so much to carefully explain to me that you don't actually care. It's the thought that counts. Actually, I think I'll end this with a bit of a rant, but to the Sonic fanbase, holy hell, you guys need to calm the fuck down. Seriously, all the weird amounts of defensiveness and attacking I saw on Twitter towards people just complaining about aspects of Frontiers before the game was even out was just ridiculous. Why are you defending a game that's not out yet? You don't know if it's good. This shit was basically the Forces Defense Squad all over again. You guys need to stop taking some randos on the internet so damn seriously. Them complaining about or even making fun of a game you're looking forward to is not a personal attack on you guys. Also, can we please not try to morph this situation into human beings actually made this game, so stop hating on it so much. Get off your fake ass moral high ground. Where was this when games like 06 and even Unleashed were getting poor reception before and after their release? Like, where the hell did this come from and why Frontiers? Sonic fans, I hate to break it to you all, but none of you actually cared about the well-being of these nameless game designers. Or at least not as much as you're trying to convince people you are. You're just getting overly upset with people that are saying things you disagree with online. These developers are simply workers for a soulless corporation that's been cheapening out the output of your favorite video game franchise for the past decade. And you're still gonna get the game and eat it up when it comes out, so who gives a shit? The game devs do not need protection from a bunch of crybabies on the internet, especially when they're attacking random ass people that they wouldn't give a shit about. Should I really be surprised that the fanbase doubts the credibility of the developers to react to criticism like grown adults, when the fans themselves are not even capable of doing that on their own? I actually think this is a really cool current climate for video games, where people can share clips or critiques on a video game online, and then the game devs can potentially see them. Who cares if they seem mean while making them? Let the developers determine that on their own, and maybe if they see something that they can improve, they can get it fixed in the future. Guys, it's okay to criticize something you love because it shows that you're fully taking it in. Like, you still like said thing in spite of its flaws. Try being more open-minded towards criticism, even if you don't personally agree with it. We don't have to keep pretending we need a white knight or gatekeep every form of entertainment we consume. Some people are gonna watch this long-ass review and get mad at me for all the stuff I've said, but I personally don't think they should give a shit. It's really unhealthy to care about other people's opinions that much. It can be super unproductive and just won't help anything in the end. Let's just try to be nice to each other and just enjoy the things we like without any added conflict. It's really not that hard. Don't be such a pussy. Anyways, Sonic Frontiers was a fine time. Go play it whenever you guys can. If you want to wait until the game's on sale, then that's fine too. I hope the next game continues to get better, and I wish Sonic Team the best of luck with whatever they put out next. Thank you all for putting up with watching this video, and I'll see you all in the next review. Later!